Hello, you're watching Everard Junction, and this is a video about how to ballast a point. Now, it's been a while since I've done any videos, mainly due to poor weather and me taking a bit of a break from the railway, but I'm back onto the railway now, so hopefully the videos will be a little bit more regular. So this is the point that I'm going to be ballasting, and many people tend to think this is sort of one of the scariest or most dangerous jobs when you're doing scenery on a layout, because if you get this wrong then your point probably won't work anymore and then you can't actually run any trains. The reason why I've got a point here that needs ballasting is because, if many of you probably remember, I used to have a curved point in there. That was this one, and it joined onto the track here and it ran up over there. Now when I sort of did it, I wasn't too sure how well it was going to work, and it did work fine, but the curve was a little bit sort of severe. It was a bit sharp, so what you ended up with was the train came down the track, and when it got to the point it took sort of a bit too much of a sharp turn. It was really noticeable that there was an obvious corner there, and then as it approached onto this bit it smoothed out again and carried on. So what you ended up with was this small area where there was a sort of really noticeable kink and change of direction in the track. I put up with it to begin with because I was working on the scenery down here, but the more I watched the trains, the more I thought, no, that's going to be too annoying, I'm going to change that. So what I've done is I have fitted a Pico Streamline Co 100 left-hand express point. So this is just a normal point that you would put on a straight piece of track to turn left, and it is a much nicer curve, and now that when the train comes down the corner really flows nicely. Because I've had to move this bit of track over slightly, I had to dig the ballast up off here and move it over a bit. You can see in the lines here where it used to be, so that's moved over a bit, so this is a little bit more curvy. That's a little bit more gentle, and then obviously over there is straight, so when it comes down it all flows together much nicer. You can see a bit more clearly if I lay over the curved point to where it would be. So that's where the curved point used to be, and you can see there's a definite difference in the gradient, or the severity of the curve. This is tighter. It's still a very relaxed sort of point, but it's just a little bit too tight. So when the train came along, there was a definite sort of as it went to the different direction, and it bugged me. So I put a new point in, which has given me the opportunity to show you how to ballast one. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is just put some sleepers in here to fill the gap up. I've already prepared 2 of them, so I'll just slot those in. That fits perfectly, actually, you'd never know. Awesome. Okay, so now it all looks like one continuous piece of track. It's just using some ordinary PVA glue. It's just paint the gaps in between the rails, or sleepers rather, with PVA glue. Okay, now I've got some glue on there. Just sprinkle in some ballast. Okay, then I'm going to run your finger over the centre, smooth the ballast out, push it into all the gaps. Trick is to make sure the tops of the sleepers are always exposed, because that's what it looks like in real life. Whilst you're doing this, always check that your point still works. Right, now I'm going to move on to the next bit, and this is just a general rule that I have. I never put any ballast anywhere near this bit here, because this is where all the mechanism is. You've got your retention spring there, which makes sure it stays snapped to either side, so don't put any glue or any ballast around here. Obviously if little bits and pieces fall in, then you can just vacuum them off afterwards. So just ballast along the edges and then do the same process over here. So I'm just going to carry on and keep going.
Right, at this point you just want to take a dry paintbrush and just manipulate the ballast, move it along in the right places. You can see by throwing the point, it forces the ballast to settle down a little bit. So there you go, the ballast is in and the glue is now drying. Now it's important to leave it for a good 12 hours before you come back to it. So I'm going to leave this for ages now. When I come back to it, I'll scrape any ballast off that's got itself glued to the sides of the rails. Just very careful to make sure that none got glued to the sides down here, obviously, because that's the area where electricity gets conducted from one blade to the other. Just give it a final check to make sure it still operates correctly, which it does. So yeah, I'll come back in about 12 or 24 hours and vacuum off the excess and rub away any that has got into places where it shouldn't be, and then it's simply a case of just patching up any areas that haven't covered as well as they could have.
To vacuum off the ballast or any particularly loose bits of fine material that I want to reuse, I use this little computer hoover. It's not very powerful and it's not very expensive, but it's just about powerful enough to suck up any excess ballast or green foliage. It's just useful for tidying up areas like that. So I'll just go over this quickly and see how it looks.
Right, I've vacuumed off all the excess, and as you can see there's a couple of bald patches where it hasn't gone quite right, so I need a little bit more there, and that one needs to be filled in. Around here I tend not to touch. This will get covered up by the weathering I do to the track. Remember, here you've got the mechanism, so I just tend to keep away from that area. But I'm just going to put a little bit of ballast in there and a little bit of ballast in there. And to do that, I'm going to use the normal method. Because I've now ballasted this area, I can put a load of masking tape over it, and I can do this area in sort of the normal way. Okay, so I've masked up the area where the ballasting has been done, and I'm happy with it. And then just going to spray a little bit of water over the rest of this area, and just set in the last few pieces that I need to attach. And now, using a diluted mix of glue of water, I'm just going to drop on a little bit of glue just to set this main part in, now that the final bits and pieces are in place. Right, the glue is soaked in. Still a few bits of white there. As it dries, that'll disappear by tomorrow. The mechanism still works perfectly fine, and yeah. So what I'm going to do is just give it a quick test. I've just quickly run across the tops of the rails with a track rubber to remove any dried glue or water, and it will work quite well. Whilst the ballast is wet underneath. It's only a small area that has been ballasted, so it'll be okay just to quickly test that it all works.